How's it going, everyone? Sorry for Mother SpongeBob. That was the day. It's August 7th, 2021, and today we're going to forecast the rest of the hurricane season because we are still only in just the beginning. We are now in the month of August, early August, and we still have the months of August, September, October, and November left to go, and we are now entering the most active part of the hurricane season, so it's definitely good to keep in mind how active this hurricane season will be. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather records, and make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather records. So let's begin by taking a look at the current sea surface temperature anomaly, and it's very concerning to say the least, because over the past several months we've been seeing sort of a lot of variations when it comes to sea surface temperature. Sometimes the main development region was mostly cooler than average, or it might or it's the same could be said right around the Gulf of Mexico. But now you see that as of July 31st, which is very recent, most of the Atlantic is under much warmer than average sea surface temperatures, and that's very concerning because that will promote more tropical cyclone activity, because pretty much the shortwave radiation from the sun, it'll be easier for the shortwave radiation from the sun to break down those H2O molecules, convert it into water vapor, and that will allow for more convection overall in the atmosphere throughout the Atlantic. So that's definitely very concerning to see that we're seeing the sea surface temperatures all throughout the Atlantic be well above average for this time of the year, especially since this is now the most active time of the hurricane season we're entering. If this was in early June, we might have been a little bit more hopeful that maybe things will cool down by the time we reach more active months like August and September. But as of right now, it seems like most of the sea surface temperatures throughout the Atlantic are well above average, and that should certainly promote more tropical cyclone activity throughout the Atlantic for the next couple months. Now, so for the forecast when it comes to sea surface temperature anomaly all throughout the Atlantic, this is based off the climatology model, the CFS model, which pretty much forecasts the sea surface temperature anomaly over the next several months. And you see for the month of September, the trend is expected to continue, where we do see the sea surface temperatures throughout the most of the northern Atlantic be well above average for this time of the year. You see that the Gulf of Mexico is forecasted to experience sea surface temperatures well above average, and even headed towards the main development region. While the main development region, the temperature anomaly isn't as strong, it's still mostly in the above sea surface average range when it comes to sea surface temperature. So that certainly would promote more tropical cyclone activity for the month of September. And if we were to look even beyond that into October, you see the above average sea surface temperatures continue all throughout the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean as well, and this extends to the main development region as well. While it's not as strong, it's at least strong enough to promote above average tropical cyclone activity when we're seeing sea surface temperatures this well above average for this time of the year during the month of October, as that's currently the forecast. Hopefully it changes, but based off of the trend we've been seeing over the past several months from the computer models, and based off of what the climatology models are saying overall, it doesn't seem likely that we're going to see below average sea surface temperatures. As more likely than not, we're going to see above average sea surface temperatures all throughout the Atlantic for this year. And even headed into November, that continues, where we do see above average sea surface temperatures throughout the Caribbean. And that's more worrying, especially in this month, because during the months of October and November, more tropical cyclones form right around this region, right around the Caribbean, rather than the main development region. So even though part of the main development region might be cooler than average, the Caribbean, the area where that's most active during the month of November, is experiencing sea surface temperatures well above average, and that certainly should promote more tropical cyclone activity overall for this hurricane season. Now, taking a look next at the wind shear anomaly over in the upper levels of the atmosphere, where the air pressure is at 200 millibars. You see that for the month of September, the current consensus is that the wind shear should mainly remain average throughout the main development region and headed into the Caribbean as well. However, we should see more above average wind shear throughout just off the coast of the southeast and maybe the northern Gulf of Mexico and just north of the main development region. So while it's certainly good news that some of this stronger wind shear is relatively close to the hurricane development area, for the most part, the main development region and the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico are still experiencing mainly average wind shear. And when you compound that to the fact that it's going to be well above average sea surface temperatures, it's better to at least predict that we're going to see more active than usual hurricane season, despite the average wind shear, all thanks to the above average sea surface temperatures throughout the main development region and headed into the Caribbean. Now, taking a look at the wind shear anomaly throughout the between the upper level and mid levels of the atmosphere, you see that the wind shear is forecasted to increase a little bit in the main development region if we were to include the mid levels of the atmosphere, which would certainly be good news. And you see that the wind shear should be relatively strong just north of the Gulf of Mexico, but you see for the most part that the wind shear is relatively light and average throughout the main development region over. So all in all, it seems like the wind shear will be primarily average, but maybe in the mid levels of the atmosphere we may see stronger than usual wind shear, which is certainly good news, and hopefully that does weaken the chance of a strong hurricane season. But and you see in October it does develop in the main development region, but the problem is that the main development region doesn't really matter much when it comes to the month of October, because most tropical cyclone development mainly occurs in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. And while the Gulf of Mexico is forecasted to receive stronger than usual wind shear for the month of October, the Caribbean is a different story, where we do see lighter wind shear than average, which is concerning because we don't want to see more tropical cyclone development out of this light wind shear. And into the month of November, you see that the wind shear is fairly strong throughout the Caribbean, which is certainly good news. But for the most part, November isn't really a very strong month when it comes to our hurricane season, so we shouldn't put as much weight into that forecast. But now let's actually take a look at the 3-month average to see how the hurricane season will turn out when it comes to wind shear over the next 3 months. And you see the average is stronger than usual wind shear throughout the main development region, which is certainly good news and certainly something we want to see, and that might put a limit in terms of tropical cyclones we could see this hurricane season. However, I do still think that the higher than average sea surface temperatures and the fact that we might enter a La Nina could change the outcome of the hurricane season to a more above average hurricane season overall. Now, taking a look at the Arctic oscillation over the next several months, there's another factor we need to determine, because if we're going to be in a negative Arctic oscillation, that means that we're going to see more cold fronts move further southward and more instability move further southward into the equatorial Atlantic, at least closer to the tropical Atlantic, where we could see more troughs dip down into the tropical Atlantic, and negative Arctic oscillation would create a less favorable environment for tropical cyclone development overall, because the wind shear would increase during an Arctic oscillation. And you see I'd say since around late July, we've been in a slightly negative Arctic oscillation, but for the most part, it's been very close to average, and the forecast over the next 2 weeks is expected to remain average. We have to see if this trend continues, if we might go back to an above average phase, which we certainly do not want to see, because a positive Arctic oscillation might promote less wind shear in the atmosphere, and we might see more tropical cyclone development overall. But it seems like the trend is leaning towards an average Arctic oscillation, so I wouldn't put so much weight on the Arctic oscillation just yet when it comes to the hurricane season, unless we see a drastic shift into a positive phase or a negative phase. As of right now, it's average, so we should primarily expect average type wind shear if we were to base it completely off the Arctic oscillation. But there are other factors we need to take a look at, such as the ENSO pattern outlook, which over the next several months you see that La Nina is expected to occur in the month of September and headed into October. This is updated as of July 8th, so the new update should come relatively soon. But you see that the current forecast is forecasting La Nina phase into the more closer to a La Nina phase into the more active months of the hurricane season, like September, where the probability of a La Nina is higher than a neutral phase. And while for the month of August, a more likely scenario is a neutral phase, a La Nina phase is nearly equally as possible. And you see the chance of a La Nina increases as you go later in the hurricane season, which is certainly concerning because that could promote more tropical cyclone development, because during a La Nina phase, we're more likely to see more lift in the atmosphere in the Atlantic and more unstable and a more unstable air mass as a result. Now, another thing that I want to take a look at is also the analog years over, which pretty much are years that were very similar to the 2021 hurricane season, and we're going to take a look at those years and see how they turn out, because it could give us a good idea of what to expect for the rest of this hurricane season. Because you see, the years that were very similar to the 2021 hurricane season were 1996 season, 2001, 2008, 2011, and of course 2017. And you see all these years were above average when it comes to named storms and even for the most part hurricanes and major hurricanes. And you see some of these years were quite historic and quite devastating, such as 2017, where we just saw a multitude of just devastating hurricanes that year, such as Hurricane Harvey. We of course saw Hurricane Irma make landfall in Florida, and we of course saw Hurricane Maria as well, which were all completely devastating storms, $3 billion, multi-billion dollar disasters in 1 year. So a year like 2021 has been known to produce an above average hurricane season, quite historic and quite devastating also. So we need to certainly keep that in mind when forecasting the hurricane season as well, because it seems like the trend with the years similar to 2021, we typically see an above average hurricane season. So I suggest that will be the most likely scenario, that we will see the more active hurricane season for 2021. Now, taking a look at my forecast all throughout the Atlantic when it comes to hurricane season, I'm expecting hyperactive cyclonic cyclone formation in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's mainly due to the fact that the sea surface temperatures will be well above average for the most part in the Gulf of Mexico compared to the main development region, where in the main development region the sea surface temperatures won't be wild. For the most part they'll be above average. They won't be it won't be as big of a departure as the Gulf of Mexico or even the Caribbean when it comes to sea surface temperatures. And I do expect the wind shear will be a little bit lighter in this region as well, based off of what the CFS model is saying. But overall, I do expect a more active hurricane season for the most part. As if I were to give a prediction, I'd say we'll see around 18 named storms for this year, around 8 hurricanes, and around, I'd say 4 major hurricanes for this year. So this is my 2021 hurricane season, and I want to put a disclaimer that take this with a grain of salt, because forecasting a hurricane season is certainly does certainly have its flaws, but I'd say more likely than not, you should expect a more active hurricane season for the 2021 hurricane season. And also remember, whether the season is well above average, well below average, or around average, we should remember it only takes one storm to completely devastate a community. So do not underestimate a hurricane season if it's below your expectations, because remember, all it takes is one storm. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more about their content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more about their content. And I hope you guys have a great day.